All right, ladies and gentlemen, art students, art enthusiasts, artists, teachers, friends, Romans, Texans, countrymen. I have the pleasure of introducing a gentleman whose work, has pulled me into the gallery, and I was like, what, how have I never met this person? And I got to meet him this morning, and he's going to talk to all of us very soon. Ramon Deanda is an assistant professor of art up the road. How many miles is that to Alpine?
Well, it's about 8 hours to 10-hour drive.
Okay, and it's similar but different to our border region. Sol Ross is the frontier University of Texas. And if, like me, you're a UTRGV alum and they have a football team, they play you guys to open up that part of history. But this is about Mr. Deanda. He was born in Ojinaga, Chihuahua, Mexico. Spent his childhood on the family ranch there. And in the work that you've seen that is around you, you're going to see plenty of animals. Goats, as a reminder of his home on the border. Living in a cultural limbo, Mr. Deanda has managed to use his love of music as well as art as a way of transcendence into his own cultural identity. His artwork is influenced by the collage of sounds composed by the accordion and saxophone that are played in the Mexican genre of music known as norteño. His artwork is a dance between Deanda's love of both music and art, and he has a passion for music that has been used as an inspiration for this artwork and questions his and perhaps your sense of belonging, because he is perhaps not American enough for the people living in the United States, nor is he Mexican because of his American cultural upbringing. Not from here, not from there, ne de aquí, ne de allá. Therefore, he'll use music and art as a way to both transcend places and belonging. And the human condition runs rampant. The big word is anthropomorphism. He's exploring character flaws such as narcissism, corruption, deception, gluttony, egocentrism, and isolation, and how they affect all of us in today's society. These creatures around us have isolated themselves into a desolate prison of their own making. This has led to the show you see, South of Paradise, North of Hell. And it's a representation of how social psychosis affects society. The imminent danger for all of us on this planet, says Ramon, is not building physical walls, but constructing mental boundaries. And I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
So I want to say that, unlike the Mexican president, Enrique Peña Nieto, you pronounced Ojinaga correctly.
Oh. Well, I got help, because I asked.
When he went to Ojinaga, he said, I am so glad to be in Okinawa. Like, no, sir, you're not in Japan. You're in Chihuahua. So, having said that, that president helped me inspire this kind of work. It was due to all his corruption scandals that were going on in Mexico and the corruption scandals here in the U.S. that kind of started to add up in my mind, because this work started when I was on my way to Alabama. That's where I started South of Paradise. And the concept of South of Paradise comes from the American dream, where everyone south of the Rio Grande lives in hell, And everybody's trying to go to heaven or to paradise by crossing the river. So it's a play on words. We live south of paradise, north of hell. We at the border, we're not really in paradise because we're very south of paradise and just barely north of hell. And well, that's our, lately, especially nowadays, our little section of the world has been in the news a lot, right? The border. So, also, a lot of my influence comes from corridos, traditional corridos. I don't know if I can play it. Well, okay, well, we'll play it later. So, in my work, I mix sculpture. I had some sculptures that I wanted to show here, but a few days before I came to bring my work, someone broke into my studio, and a lot of my sculptures had damages. So I couldn't bring them on time. He's the only one that survived, the Chivo, Felipe the goat, and he's the accordion player. And hopefully, at the end of the slides, you'll get to hear the music environment that I wanted to create when I made the show. That's my hometown, Ojinaga, and that's the main plaza. Now, a lot of my work, I don't know if you noticed, but I have a lot of blue skies in my work. And that's because out there, there's rarely clouds in West Texas, so the skies are always blue. There's no skyscrapers, it's just the sky and the desert landscape. So if you look at my prints, most of my prints, there's a desert landscape with a very blue skies. So you just asked me. So I'm about 700 miles away from here. Presidio is, I think, I would consider it the smallest border town in Texas. We're about 6,000 people, roughly. And this is kind of like what I was doing when I was going to undergrad school to pay my tuition. I worked in construction. And it's kind of like when I was working with my dad, I would take pictures, photographs of the work sites. But I wanted to show this one because of the landscape against the sky. Like in most of my works, that's what I want to capture. Like the small landscape versus the big sky. This is part of where my studio is. I also wanted to show you the landscape, the kind of vegetation we have out there. This is how it looks like most of the year, except when we get some rain. And this is the traffic we have out there. Last year, this guy was the celebrity. Somewhere between Presidio and a little town called Redford, this guy just came ramming towards a truck. And then they took the picture, and then I sent it to the newspaper, and everyone was freaking out, like, where did this bison come from? It was a mystery for a couple of months. Like, does anyone know where the bison came from? Who's the owner? It didn't have a tag. So rumors are the bison crossed over from Mexico But then again, no one knows where in Mexico would be a herd of bison. So it was the most randomest thing. But these are my animals in most of my work. Goats and donkeys. Because we, as kids, I helped my grandparents raise cattle and goats. Mainly goats. Those were the last batch of goats I helped raise. And that was before I went to grad school in 2015, 2016. And again, another example of vegetation, landscape, skies. I'm obsessed with it. Sunsets behind the little goats. And a little story of when we were kids, they would send us to the Rio Grande to take the cattle for a drink so they could drink water because our ranch stops at the river on the Mexican side. So as kids, we get distracted playing tag or hide and seek. And before we knew it, the cows would be on the American side. There was not much to stop him from going to the other side, because as you see, that's the Rio Grande, where I live. And for reference and proportions, there's a tire here. You see it? That's a normal truck tire. So, oh, and there's another one up here. Right there. So, as you see, there's not much of a barrier to keep cows from crossing to the other side. I don't know what they were looking at the other side. There was no grass, much less green grass, right? But that's the nature of the creatures. So, I mean, and it's usually like that. There's no one is there all the time. It's always empty. No people there. And the fence you see up there, up here, that's where our property ends. Okay, so my influences when it comes to telling stories are these guys. And their story, one of the latest songs, well, not latest, it came out in 2009, La Granja, where they describe a dog that escapes and is running rampant around the ranch, and it's hurting the farmer. In the song, the dog represents violence and the cartels. So the neighbor decides to build a wall around the farmer's ranch so that no one is able to escape it. Within the farm, there's a group of pigs that are eating the surplus and taking advantage of the farmer. So this, along with, I think there's a video. We'll show just a little bit of it, so you can kind of see the visuals of where my imagination started to run. So La Granja means farm. So you see all that's where the dog was. So there's a fox involved in this. So Fox was one of Mexico's former presidents, Vicente Fox Quesada. So there's him, and he was known for wearing boots. So he started taunting the drug cartels. And that's how the dogs escapes. So it bites the plate, throws it, and then the little pigs in the farm represent politicians. Like with the little... So if you see one of those is represented over there, the ignorant swine with the tie. Okay. Oops. Okay. And also this book, Animal Farm. Some animals, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. You know, and also horse, goats, chickens. Politics are, this is what was going on when I was moving to Alabama. This is that's the election that happened 2016. So all these things, if you add all that up and put it in the blender, that's what came out to be here. And one of my first prints was that one where there's astronaut pigs. Oh, yeah. The alternative facts of the flat earth theory.
It's a nice sun.
I had a couple of students who were as a grad assistant. Some of my undergrad students, I had one that didn't believe, he was sure that the earth was flat. He assured everybody. Like he would really get really animated when people would contradict him. The earth is flat. So I thought about this, like, this is 2017. Why are we still debating this? So I thought of it like a circus. And my initial thought, well, I'm gonna put an elephant and a donkey. But then, like, how about if I do farm animals instead of circus animals? And a friend of mine, was making fun of another friend because he was trying to be great, athletic, like trying to do things that he was not able to. And he says, you're as gracious as a cow on roller skates. Boom. So that I like, okay, I'm gonna put a cow on roller skates, holding a goat. The goat is holding the flat earth. But in every conspiracy theory, there's always one holding the strings, right? So if you look at that print, there's strings attached to the astronauts and the sun as well as the moon. Because, remember, we haven't gone to space. It's all been in montage. It's been fake. So that's why there's someone behind them holding the strings. So there's all these poor astronaut pigs are confused. They're floating. And then that's why I made the sun look like a kid drew it. Ideas that come to my mind. But one thing I made a printmaker rookie mistake. And if you look at it now, I forgot to reverse the globe, the reflection of the globe. I was so focused on the pig, cow, and goat that I forgot to do the reflection. So Mexico and the U.S. are these are some of my printmaking influences. Goya, los burros. ¿Sí sabrá el discípulo? ¿Sí sabrá más el discípulo? Does the disciple know more? And ¿de qué mal morirá? What is he going to die from? So he would make fun of political figures, religious figures, people in power back before it was cool. Because he was doing these during the Inquisition. So imagine talking about priests, the Pope, the King, back when it meant risking your life. Another one of my favorites, Posada. He came up with the Catrina and corridos too. But his reasoning behind the death is that in life, that's the only democratic being. Because it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, white, brown, black, everyone's gonna die at some point. And here he's making fun of the Mexican from the 1910s. Well, not this one. But he would make fun of Mexicans that painted their faces white to appear more European. Like the one on my right, your left. And then he also helped with the Mexican Revolution. You know, like, who's heard of La Cucaracha? You guys know that La Cucaracha is a political song? They're talking about Carranza in that song? Like, only people in certain sectors of Mexican culture understood the double meaning behind La Cucaracha. La Cucaracha means roach, right? The insect. But it also means marijuana. So as I was developing the idea behind all this, I explored different ways of showing how am I going to develop a series. So I went to ceramics. I wanted to mix ceramics and printmaking, so I started exploring, experimenting. And the goat, and well, all my animals went through different transformations, evolutions. So I started off by doing a kind of like a realistic version of the goat. And this is an etching, aqua tint. And you know, I was starting off with, okay, let's do some cute motivational images. Like, you can reach the moon. And you know how they say that the moon is made of cheese. Have you guys heard of asaderos? It's like stretchy cheese. That's why the goat is pulling the cheese down. He's bringing the moon down to him. He's also eating it. And then it changed to this. So I've tried to find a way of creating a design that feels like he's really saying something. So here he becomes more confrontational, more protesty. I remember when I came up with this, like I thought of this, I was driving through Houston on my way to Mobile, Alabama, after my Thanksgiving break. They were talking about all these oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico. And, oh no, wait. Gulf of America. And all these things that were going on, like the money laundering, the waste of resources. So I thought of him, okay, well, he's going to be at a pub. He's going to be an atomic goat. You see his cowbell? So that's what I was thinking of when I came up with this. And he represents capitalism as well. That's why his dollar sign in the fur. And then came this version, a total animated. Totally animated. I was experimenting with digital art. And my digital professor told me, hey, I feel like your goat is too stoic, too like, it needs movement. So I came up with this version, like, kind of like a Looney Tunes version of a goat that would sing, narrate events in his ranch. So that's where it starts. I think this was the first of the series. Rude Coast, or Rude Guests. When I was growing up, it was seen as rude to put your elbows over the table as you ate. Has anyone had those kind of parents? Ándale. Los codos abajo. So, what I'm trying to say here is, we all have those family reunions where certain parts of the family is just there looking at you, judging you, like you're the black sheep of the family. And it's just there, just waiting for you to make a mistake to start. So they're just there, like, I can't wait for this guy to leave. So they're judging him, and then the goat is just there. He's just there enjoying the corn. Like, when I eat my corn, I don't care if I'm chewing with my mouth open, you know. But they're judging him when their house or their place where they live is full of litter. It's all cluttered. It's not clean. So who are you to judge when you yourself have your own issues that you haven't even tried to solve? So here's more of, like, we all have or know someone that takes credit for something that they never did. So in this one, the donkey is underwater, and he's holding the pig so that people think that he's walking on water. To be some kind of messiah kind of figure. So everybody in the back are like, look, he's walking on water. Do you guys know of someone like that? I'm not saying names. Now this one, who's heard of los voladores de Papantla? Los voladores de Papantla are a group of, it's like a ritual. They get up a very tall pole. They tie themselves with ropes. It's usually 4, and one that stays up. And they represent the 4 cardinal points: east, west, north, south. So they go flying around till they hit the ground. But they tie their feet, so they're going down like this. They're flying. And one day I thought, imagine Imagine them being wireless. Wireless voladores de Papatla. And it was when all these wireless things came up, like they were announcing the Google glasses. You remember those? I don't know what happened to them. Like you would click here and then you would see the screen through the glasses. Like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that happened. So like, and it was before Neuralink came to be too. You know what Neuralink is? Like what Elon Musk wants to attach to the brain of people. So I had to have a helmet screwed to their brains that would attach and connect to the top of the antenna. So that's why they're flying. But since they're on their phones, they're in their own little world. Any questions so far? So again, I'm talking about prominent figures here. This one's called blind faith. And the donkey represents loyalty, but at the same time, stubbornness. He's so loyal to this political or figure in power. That's why he has the little collar, white collar. And he's leading him to the cliff. And the other goat is realizing what's happening. Like, oh, I'm next. He also has the noose around his neck. But that goat with holding the donkey is like, don't say anything. Trust me, you'll be fine. I don't think he'll be fine. And then this one, el burrito amazonero. I don't know if it's in this show. Did I put it here? Well, el burrito amazonero talks about all the hardships people in the Amazon factories go through. And this was happening in 2018 during Christmas time. That's why the burrito amazonero instead of burrito sabanero, which is traditional Christmas carol in Latin America. And that's why I put that little Rudolph red nose at the top. And that's Miley icon from Amazon. The brand is branded by Amazon. And the bags. Pobre burrito. This one's called the ultimate sacrifice for freedom. So if you look at this one comes along with this one here. So in order to make it to paradise, you need to have no free will or no horns. So the coyote is cutting the goat's horns so that he can be eligible to cross to paradise. So if you see the coyotes up there, they're measuring, making sure that the horns are no longer than what they're supposed to be. So I showed a version of this one earlier in the printmaking class. See how the context changes depending on how you use the creatures or the image? This has a different message, right, altogether. So this is ferocious demand, decrepit supply. This is way before COVID. So us as Americans, we like to demand our supplies to get here, merchandise tomorrow, if not right now. So Mother Earth, represented by the cow, cannot work that fast. So if we keep demanding more from it, it's gonna go dry, right? So that cow needs some rest. But she's got a very long line behind her. We talked about this one. And right now I'm working on more fun prints, a little less gloomy, taking a little break from all the, but it'll come back. Like the one over there with the pit bull, called La Chancla. Someone's throwing a chancla at it. Who hasn't, who, tell me, who has been a victim of La Chancla? So I thought, okay, I'm going to do one with La Chancla, but instead of a kid, I'm going to put a pit bull. So if you look at it, one of the chanclas missed. It's in the very back. But be assured that that second chancla is not going to miss. The first chancla was a warning. So that's it. Can we show one of the songs, please? So I want you to picture those sculptures, and you're walking around, and there's this music in the background as you're looking at the work. I recorded the music and composed the letters. I wrote the letters as well. And those are my attempts at singing. Wow. I don't know if you can hear it. So I'm pretending to be Felipe, the goat, and he's narrating what's happening in the ranch. The owner of the ranch left, and he abandoned his animals because all the creatures in the ranch wouldn't listen to him. They became arrogant and selfish. So he's like, I'm done. Help yourselves. He left. And once they realized what they'd done, they went crazy. Anarchy went rampant. And they started to realize, I think we made a mistake. But I don't have the will to fix it. Well, that's all I have. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Do you have a particular favorite work?
A favorite work? Ay, Chihuahua. As of now, because it changes, is that one over here with the horses and the donkey. The donkey represents me. There are times when people ask us to be serious, and sometimes I can't help myself, and I burst out laughing because of the ironic and seriousness. You know, it's so serious that it's comical. So the horses represent people who take themselves so serious. Like they look at you like this, get away from me, peasant. So, yeah, and that's me, like, just living life, happy to be wherever I'm at, grateful. And the other one's like, "Oh, what's wrong with this guy? Can you be gone?" Kind of deal. And that's my favorite print as of now. Maybe tomorrow it can be another one. Any other question?
So you play music and write corridos yourself as well?
Yes.
And then, because these remind me of like Hokusai sets of Japanese prints, so maybe there is a connection to Okinawa somehow. But with words, do you write like narrative stories that might be graphic and comic booky, and how or why would you separate that out and keep these, I guess, more open-ended as opposed to more specific things with enough words too, possibly, since they are narrative?
Well, I you know,
Not to put you on the spot, but with art appreciation and even our ceramics, we're going to do these 4-panel comics. And do you know Gary Panter? He worked on Pee Wee's Playhouse, and he's a guy that claims Texas and Oklahoma as his roots. And he did a number of art things that included comics that's related to Robert Crumb, which is before my time, which might put it before your time. So I wouldn't necessarily say, I mean, if you were a student, I might say, hey, why don't you do comics? But since you're you, it's like, have you thought of this? And how have you filtered that into saying, yeah, I do it now and again, or no, I'm never going to do that, and why, or I hadn't thought of that?
I hadn't thought of that.
Okay.
But you know, lately I've been thinking of creating this setup where I have an art piece and there's a song directly connected to that specific piece. I don't know how I'm going to do that because I'm not a sound engineer, but I would like to be able to have, like, let's say 10 paintings, and each painting has its own story and has its own music for that specific piece. So it can be
So
a
it
little
would be like
ambitious, but
a short story / installation / theater experience / MTV video.
all of it. I want to experiment.
All right.
I'm in this new phase now where I want to experiment with mixed media. But not leaving my farm animals forgotten. It's a weird place where I'm at right now.
Well, it looks like a good place, as well as a bad place.
What's that?
It looks like a very good place, as well as perhaps a scary, bad place, but it's how you frame it. And wonderful talk.
Well, thank you. Any other questions?
I noticed that all of these have a gradient for the back, or most of them have a gradient for the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering how difficult that effect is doing in printmaking, and you know, if that's like one of the more difficult, or like have you gotten it down over the years?
Well, that's a technique called rainbow row. And well, I like to create these, like it's late in the day or early in the day or in the middle of the day, the different shades of blue that the day has. You notice that when you're in a place where there's almost no buildings. You start to learn, okay, so at this time, the sky looks this way. And this time of the year, the sky looks this way. It changes throughout so I try to replicate it depending on what was going on in the image with the colors of the day, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like the one with the cats in the can, I don't know if you've ever seen a cat that gets its head stuck in random places. I try to, in Presidio, when it's about to, like 10 minutes or 30 minutes before sunset, there's this cloud of dust that sets around the town. And if you're at a high elevation, you see the dust. That's why a lot of us have allergies out there. And it kind of looks pinkish. So I went from a pink salmon and then white and then all these shades of blue. And with the roller, they start to mix into each other. They blend. And they transition from one color to another. And that's how. But it took a lot of practice and a lot of mistakes to get to that place. I still mess up. It breaks my heart every time I mess up, but like, you can't learn without making mistakes. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
I have another question. I'm always curious about the exhibition and how did you decide to place the works in this configuration? I know each piece has such a narrative within, so there's supposed to also be a narrative to the way it's displayed. And also, is that your?
This is my accordion,
You
and
wanna
that's
talk
my
about that? You gonna play?
It travels with me no matter where I go. She comes with me. Her name is Gabby. So, well, since I was not here to install it, what I told Genesis is to put all the ones that had similar blues in the sky together. Because the ones out there, they're part of my transition to another topic. The ones with the square images with just the face of the animals. Kind of has like a pop art feel to it. Pop art meets ranch, rustic art. But yes, well, when I create or when I make this series, it started by those guys, the goats floating, and then the goats over there. You see how similar they are? And then just like that. So it's supposed to go from early day to sunset to night, where the coyotes are messing with the Great Dane over there. Like, I shouldn't be here. That's based on when I was in high school, we were hired to play at ranches. I had a band and we played. And I remember like being like 17. We were playing for all these grown-up guys in a ranch in the middle of nowhere. And it got to 3 a.m, and we're like, I think we need to go. I don't know if you guys have been to a party or an event when things start to get a little rough and you're like, I think I need to go. I shouldn't be here anymore. But they wouldn't let us go because they kept paying us. And we started, okay, well, if you want us to stick around, it'll be $500 for an hour. And towards 4 a.m, we're like, okay, we need to go. We have school tomorrow. You'll be all right. You can miss class. The guitar player had his fingers looked like frog hands, all swollen up from the tip. So that inspired that print. The coyotes represent the borrachos. Anything else?
I just had a question. It's more, I guess, like on the process of your creating the characters and the scenes. Do you also like have do you talk to other artists? Do you bounce ideas off people, or is it mostly an internal thing?
That's a good question. I like that question. So each animal represents a human trait. Like pigs represent gluttony, greed, you want more, envy. You don't want the others to have more than you, but you also don't do to have more. As long as the other person doesn't have more than you, you're okay. Goats represent someone that is outgoing, someone that is not afraid of jumping on the precipice. You know how they walk on the walls? There's no sheep. There's sheep. The sheep represent people that are afraid of stepping out of the norm. They want to follow someone. The cow represents, in some cases, Mother Earth, the motherhood, people that want to give more than what they receive. And lately I added the horse. The horse is a new character. So I'm still trying to I think horses represent someone that feels like they're glamorous. They're like, I'm better than all of you animals. And I'm still trying to decide where the dog and the cats fit in the picture, because they're also new. But I have thought about the other animals. I just wanted to add the cat and the dog for fun.
The word Redford just hit me. Do you know out there in Martha, living off the land, whose work might be similar but very different from yours, George Zupp? Do you know that character?
I
I'm
don't.
not saying you should meet him, but you could meet him. His work is a little, well, he has an MFA, but it's a little out there in a way that I'll show you later.
Yes, please.
And I think that same human experience on where things could go sky high or deep dark, I think you'll appreciate it, but you might giggle or you might throw up, I don't know.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question on the way to paradise.
Uh-huh.
Like, you know how the goats are going to paradise, they're getting their cuernos cut? Does that represent the culture, or does that represent what anything specific, or particular? Because I know you brought it up on the presentation, but
Assimilation.
assimilation,
You gotta assimilate to the culture. If you wanna come in, you gotta be like us.
yeah.
He's living off the land.
And it happens anywhere you go in the world, you know.
No, I mean, you've been in school.
It could be polished, but he chooses.
You have to fit a certain criteria to be
And he
accepted.
lives
You can't
just down
look
the road,
different.
it'd be like from the calendar.
Can't stand up.
And it also goes with
Maybe not
groups of
Edmonton,
people,
but further than
you know, like
Edmonton.
a group of friends.
And he's carved out a niche.
Like it's
but
someone
it may not
that
overlap
is way different
with the academic
from
work that he's in.
all these other friends.
And the
Okay,
work that I
you're an outcast. Go away.
not did a show here for a paper.
Any other questions?
Are there any animals that you wanted to use for something specific and then figured out it was just really annoying to work with it, or
What was that?
Were there any animals that you wanted to work with but just found really annoying to work on, or just tedious?
Chickens. Because of feathers.
Yeah.
I tried to draw chickens. I think I have one with chickens. But it's annoying because every time I try to do feathers, they look like fur. So I need to find a way of, I need to find a technique that I can make them look like feathers and not fur. Yes?
I'm noticing some of your prints have this texture, wood texture in it, that from far away they almost look like kanji and things like that. But are you when in the process does that come in? That's towards the end, at the beginning, or where do these, and what do they represent?
I love that question. I wish I would have brought the wood blocks that I showed you. Can I go get them? What's that?
You ink it up and you print it and it's a surprise and it's a happy accident. Am I right?
At first, it was accidental.
But do you do
What-
it towards the end, or where in the process?
So what I did, I had two blocks.
Okay.
One is the matrix, and one is the color. The one when I print the color didn't have the texture. But the wood blocks that have the texture was a different kind of wood. It was birch. I think it was birch or cherry tree. Not sure, I can't remember. Plywood. So I would ink up the whole plate, but I also would ink up the background, the negative space, on purpose. At first, it was accidental. I printed a proof, and then I saw the textures. Like light bulb. You know, and I tried it on my prints. So to me, in some cases, it would act, the lines would act like clouds, but also had that rustic feel. To me, that represents a ranch, because everything in the ranch is rustic. You have to fix it with what you have, not just with the hammer and some nails, y vámonos. So that was my attempt. Oh, wow.
You don't want to rummage through your stuff?
Thank you. So, here's an example of what I mean. Some of these were experiments done with laser engravers, and that would create these interesting textures. So you can see it here with this print, with this matrix. You see the lines here.
And what wood is this?
I think this is MDF.
Like MDF?
You can touch it. It's not, the ink is dry. I have the actual print in my portfolio. No, my portfolio was next to.
Was next to it? Okay.
Thank you. So nice. You want to hold it? You can pass it around if you want. Yeah. Last time I inked it was in 2017, so it should be dry by now. Okay. What's that?
Like, which ones of these were like accidental and which ones were like on purpose that you did the wooding?
Well, the ones that I hung up are the intentional.
Oh, they're all intentional?
But yeah, when
We're
I
gonna carve,
I
but to
always
get
inked
that
one of
level
my
of detail
plates,
is gonna be,
and that's when
I
all
think
this
it's gonna
happened.
be time to take.
It was all accidental. So most of these prints came from accidents.
That's a pretty thin and crispy line, like you subtracted,
So,
90%
okay, so
of the
these
surface of that
first,
block, right?
I just randomly put them there. But then I play with the direction
Some sort of wild
of the
color
rain.
that he's figured out.
And that's a
And
black.
then he clarifies, like on silk screen with
Yes.
the black. Why- Yeah. So I don't think he's doing additions, I think he's like one of
Those old
finding
cuts,
his own unique niches.
yeah, those two were, I already knew, okay. I'm gonna play with the direction.
I'm not gonna yell. No, I just have a question. Had you ever thought about using an app to put sounds with your pictures? Because when I went to a Titanic museum, basically you download
I
it
hadn't
in
heard
an app
of
on
how this guy's
your phone.
speaking. And I'm looking, and I thought it was up in the Permian Basin, which is where he went to school, but I guess he's from the Alpine Marfa area.
Can I have a
Presidio.
QR code?
So he and his father are on Glass Tire. They're kind of documenting this studio he's building that's going to be a community.
That's so practical too.
Centered around,
Everybody has their phone.
centered around.
Everybody has a phone. A lot of people have headphones.
Multidisciplinary.
Or AirPods.
We went out there once the pandemic times, so bar full of schools now.
I'm just curious, like, I love
So
museums.
simple.
I love museums, and that was one thing I went to Titanic that I really enjoyed was being able to like hear the stories, the background of each exhibit that I went to.
You're gonna play Ubuntu for us?
What's it?
You're gonna play for us?
I could play something.
Sure!
MDF
Mira, mira,
has
Okay, okay.
stuff which he has back now
Thank you.
with cardboard. But he's done it with what did he say? It was a laser cutter.
So you can see the results.
But I think he can do that too.
So where's his name? Brandon, right? Oh well. He asked me if all of these were intentional or mistakes. This is one of the ones that was a mistake. So you mentioned about me showing mistakes or that? This is one of the mistakes.
Okay.
You see how I started carving here?
Yes, yes.
And then I realized, wait, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try it like this. So I inked it up. And you can see that it's not as deep as it should be. It's very close to the surface. And that's why it picked up a lot of the ink in the background. And this one is the one that it all started.
Yeah, that's where you got the coming from.
So you can see the card.
So was this unintended scratches?
Yeah, there's some carving tools that you start taking off a lot of the surface.
So was this intentional or was that by accident?
No, I started to carve, and then I decided, you know what, let me try it like this and see how it looks. And yeah, that's where it started. This one.
Microphone.